New York police officers who worked at Ground Zero after 9/11 are 50% more likely to develop cancer than officers prior to the attack. That's according to a newly released 20-year NYPD study. The findings show doctors diagnosed nearly 900 cops with cancer. And joining us now is Nick Tate, Newsmax health editor and co-author of the new book, Da Vinci's Baby Boomer Survival Guide. Nice to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Now, the study also found that diagnoses include common cancers like colon, prostate, and breast cancer. 56% of the cops served at Ground Zero within 24 hours of the attacks. There were large increases in 4 rare forms of cancer. Only 16.5% were actually smokers. Now, there's been some debate on whether screening methods may have affected those rates. Is that plausible?
Well, this is the challenge with cancer diagnoses. It's very, very hard to say this chemical exposure caused that cancer, and these officers and these first responders have been among the most closely covered and scrutinized people ever to look for cancers. But the fact that the researchers found such high increases in the cancer rates after the 9/11 exposures, particularly in these rarer forms of cancer, we're talking about things like brain cancer, kidney cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, thyroid cancer, there really is a finger that's pointing to the evidence that it was the toxic debris cloud which contained asbestos, which contained benzene, dioxins, and other things that are clearly implicated in cancer. So what we really have is kind of a real world laboratory that allows us to study the health effects of these environmental contaminants. So it's possible that it was increased screening and more scrutiny, but the likelihood is that those chemical exposures were a major factor too.
Now, Discover magazine came out with a report that shows almost 70% of World Trade Center first responders have become sick and are experiencing breathing complications after 9/11. Let's talk about the 9/11 Cancer Fund. Hospital stays and prescription coverage for health issues relating to 9/11 expire this September. What now?
Actually have expired.
Have expired already.
Congress authorized the money to pay for some $50 million has gone to first responders who had cancer and their families to help with costs. But Congress allowed that fund to expire, so those folks who have been diagnosed are not getting any more money, and those folks who are likely to be diagnosed in the future aren't going to get that money either. Right now there are dozens of members of Congress, both in the Senate and the House, that support reauthorizing that funding, but we haven't seen it yet. So that's going to be, I think, one of the big issues we're going to be talking about in the weeks ahead.
What do you think the likelihood of that is?
Well, these folks, men and women, were clearly heroes. And the tragedy is that if these rates continue to rise, the number of people who will die as a result of exposures to the toxic cloud, remember, there's 1.5 million tons of debris, 1.5 million tons of debris that folks were breathing in. They are going to die at higher numbers, perhaps, than the individuals who actually were killed when the towers fell. They're heroes. They deserve our attention. They, at the very least, deserve our support in terms of funding their medical care.
Couldn't agree more. Nick Tate, thanks so much for joining us. Newsmax health editor and co-founder of the new book, Da Vinci's Baby Boomer Survival Guide. Always great to have you with us here on Newsmax Now.